Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am here with another weekly wrap-up. I am going to be wrapping up the last week of October. I did have one book from the first that I just read, so I will go over that as well, but it was a big reading week for me and a big wrap-up to the great month of reading. So let's dive into my weekly reads. Okay guys, so welcome to another weekly wrap up. It has been another great reading week for me. October has been my best month so far. I'm actually going to be filming my monthly wrap up right after this video, so that should be coming probably, I try to post on Mondays always. I always post Mondays for my weekly wrap up. And then I've been kind of iffy on the other days. Sometimes it'll be like Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, Saturday for the third post. I haven't set an exact schedule because I don't like to limit myself or like force myself to hit those days every time, because sometimes I don't film enough videos or I'm just not really on top of my editing. Anyways, that's all. I'm just rambling at this point, sorry. But I will probably post that like Wednesday, get that up to you guys. I'm just gonna film it right after this. So anyways, October was a great month. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Hope you hit that subscribe button if you like my content. I do weekly wrap-ups, so I go over every book that I read. And then I also have an end of the month wrap-up, which you'll see later in the week, which will just go over my stats and my top reads, because I do read a lot. And so when I did monthly wrap-ups with, I started monthly, then I went mid-month and end of the month. It still was just too long of a video. And if you follow me, you know I already talk too long when I do the weekly wrap-up. So this is better this way. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hope you hit that subscribe button. Trying to grow my channel. It's been kind of tough lately with YouTube. It's been kind of just sitting at the same level. So not sure what's going on, but it is what it is. We can just slowly grow as a channel. But I appreciate all you guys that return, like my videos, comment, all of that. I appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get started, because I'm already rambling and I don't want this to be super long, because I do have 11 books to talk about. I did have one book I almost forgot to add because I just finished it last night. So I'm adding it to the wrap up. So these are all the books for the last week, October, the 1st of November. I did have one DNF, so I won't go into that too much. So 11 books, one DNF for this last week. So it was active. I read a lot this week, so it was great. A lot of that had to do with the trick or treat readathon that I was a part of, because I was doing a lot of sprints with them on their Discord, and that just really pushed me to like really key in on my books and focus. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first book that I have to talk about was a new favorite. It was so fantastic. I can't wait to buy the book. I know Juliette Cross has like some really pretty editions, so I'm debating getting like the hardback or just the paperback. But anyways, this is her new release, The Beast Lord. This is the second book in the Rise of Northgale. The first one was The Wraith King, which I really loved that book. So I really enjoy romantasy, fantasy. I just don't get to it enough, honestly, with all my other things that I have to do with ARCs and ALCs. I don't read it enough. So I loved getting to fantasy. I love the way Juliette Cross has built this world. I really love all the characters. This expanded the world building a lot in this series. And I just adored every moment of this book. It was very cute, very sweet, amazing world building, such a great couple. So let's dive into what it is. So this is about Lord Redver, and he is a beast lord. So they call him lords. He's basically kind of a king of his kind of group. And he is more of the beast lord. We did see him from the previous book because he does have dealings with the Wraith King and everything. And then we have Jessamine, and she is a Scald Fae. She is actually kind of like basically on the run from her father and the man that he was like kind of selling her into marriage to. She has a very interesting power that she's kind of hidden from people. She is the Scald Fae are like kind of like more like with the water and stuff, so they have like the water powers, but she has an extra power that made her even more kind of like an outcast and seen as like bad in her family or like a freak. But that power is what this guy that wanted to marry her wanted. So her father was basically going to sell her to this guy. He's an evil scumbag and he hates the Wraith King and he wants to kill him. So she has this really, I don't want to like totally go into what her power is, but he wanted to use her power to kill the Wraith King. And so she went on the run. And so she's been kind of like hiding from town to town. And she has been living in like the borderlands kind of, she's basically a princess. So she is a princess in hiding and she's like kind of serving at this kind of tavern in the borderlands. And some of the men of that guy catch up to her and they find her. So she has to go run into the woods for her life. And she's not really dressed properly for the winter and to be out in the woods. And she kind of like collapses. And basically Lord Redver was out in the woods kind of doing some hunting before they're going to travel with their group to where they go for the winter. And he has a wolf, so like they're beast lords and they have a very good tie to like animals and everything. And he has this wolf that I absolutely loved. And this wolf finds her and basically like kind of puts her on his back type of thing and brings her to Lord Redver. And so now he's kind of stuck with this girl and he takes her back with him to, I don't know if it's like what they call it, like his tribe, his people. I can't remember, but he takes him back to his people and she basically kind of meets with their council and everything and kind of has to tell them the truth of like what's going on. She doesn't fully expose what her power is, but they agree to keep her for like the winter. So she goes to travel with them to the place that they go for the winter. And one of their like seers actually said, yeah, she actually will help save our people. Something bad is coming. So like she says, it's important to have her with us. And so she ends up going kind of on the road with him. She goes on a separate journey with him when they need to go do something. So there's a lot of like road traveling together. Just they have such an amazing connection. She gets this like really amazing found family with his whole group because her family really ostracized her except for her brother, but he had passed away. And so it's just got amazing found family in this. And she really like, you know, becomes part of his people. And she, of course, is his fated mate. And what's great about this is we have some nodding in here because he's kind of like a beast. If you can see by the picture, that's kind of like, he's kind of more beast, you know, but like not full beast. So when they mate, they know it's their mate, because they will not for their mate. So I loved this. I don't want to dive too deep into it. I've already been talking a while, but like I loved it. It was so swoony. I loved both the characters. I love how devoted they were to each other, how she really puts her life on the line to help his people. And like, it's just really beautiful. And I loved her power. Like she comes into her power and realizes not to be ashamed of it. And her just journey was really great. So I highly recommend this. I honestly think you should read the first book first. You get to see those characters again in this. And this is just kind of building on this world. There is a new enemy coming. And that like enemy that happened in like, that was a threat to the people. It was really exciting. Like there was a lot of exciting stuff going on plot wise. So I loved it. So I gave this one 5 stars and 3 chilies. It was so spicy. It was like spicy and sweet and just a really good time. So I loved it. So it's like one of my favorite fantasies that I've read this year. So I love Juliette Cross. I'm a huge fan. You'll see her again on this list. Okay, so then I had an ALC. I listened to Nightmare Girl by Genavie Castle. I've never read this author before. This is the first book in the Sentinels series, and this is between Lazarus and Leighton, and this was a really interesting setup. I don't think this is out yet on audio. It is out, I think, to read. Like, you can read it on ebook or whatever, and I think it's on Kindle Unlimited. But I think it's coming out like more, I think I didn't see it on Audible release yet, so it might not be on Audible. I'm not sure, but I think it's coming out like beginning November. Anyways, this was a really interesting kind of like stalker, romantic suspense, and had an interesting setup, because in this we have Lazarus, and he is basically an assassin. He works for this with the Sentinels, and they're this big group that go after people, and you know, he's pretty rich and all of that, and he actually has prophetic dreams. So that was the interesting thing. So he keeps dreaming about this girl that is in danger, and she's going to be killed, and he knows that she's out there somewhere, and he needs to rescue her. He needs to go after her. So he does end up finding his nightmare girl, and that is Leighton. And Leighton is, you know, I think she was like going, I'm trying to remember everything about Leighton, because I think she was like going to college, and then she kind of like has another stalker situation. She has like an ex situation. She has a lot of danger in her life, and for some reason this chick is just a magnet to like multiple bad shit happening to her. So once he finds her, he basically starts to stalk her, to kind of keep an eye on her and keep her safe. So he doesn't really refer to it as stalking. He kind of calls it shadowing, because it's for her safety. But he's like basically becomes obsessed with her. So he kind of puts himself in her path, and they end up running into each other a few times, and then he pursues her, and they start to date and fall into this relationship together. And he basically kind of kills off anybody that poses a threat to her. There is a group that him and his people, the Sentinels, end up going after, because she was going to be drugged one night, and he rescued her from that. And he looked into these guys, and they ended up be like these rich guys that are doing this to multiple women, and there's somebody higher up that was involved and stuff going on. So he basically, that's like also what him and his group are going after. So that's kind of like the main plot here. It was good. It was, you know, a solid 4-star read. I enjoyed the audiobook. It had dual narration by Stella Hunter, Oliver Highpoint, and it featured J.F. Harding. We do get, like, I think in this one we did have points of view from another stalker, if I'm remembering correctly. But the audiobook was good. I got through this really quickly. And then of course, you know, you may have the conflict of like when she finds out how much he was stalking her and that type of thing. It was just kind of crazy because she got herself into so many bad situations. So this assassin was there to protect her. So I gave it 4 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, so then I did a reread. I honestly did this reread partly because I had this book annotated by Jen from the Book Refuge. I had her do the whole Magnolia Falls series, and this one was actually my first book that I read by Laura Pavlov. So this is Beating Heart. And the first time I listened to it, I had an ALC. So this time I wanted to physically read it and then be able to see Jen's, all her annotations and see what she thought of it. And they were great. It was funny because I know she had issues with Cutler being called Beefcake throughout the series. And Cutler Beefcake is like my favorite character. I love this kid so much. I want her to eventually get a Beefcake romance when he grows up. It's like, I love this kid. So this was actually like my first Laura Pavlov book, but it's like the 4th book, I think, in the series. Let me double check. Yeah, it's the 4th book in Magnolia Falls. So I had her annotate this series. Even though I hadn't read all of them, I basically went back and read the previous ones as she annotated them. But I also read it because in that trick or treat readathon I was doing, one of my prompts for my bingo board was to do like a reread or a cozy read. And so I decided to reread this one because I needed to get to it, and I really loved it. And it continues to be my favorite. I think it's my favorite Laura Pavlov. I'm not positive. I did really love Loving Romeo, but this one is just like so sweet. This is between Nash and Emerson, and Nash is our single dad of Cutler, aka Beefcake. You've seen this kid throughout the series. You'll see him in other series because one of her current series that she has out right now is actually Emerson's brother, and then like all her other brothers basically. And it's funny, Jen was like noticing all this stuff with her brothers in this, and she's like, I see a future series coming. And that's true. So I'm really loving that series. And I've been really bummed because the last few like Laura Pavlov books, I haven't gotten the ALC, and not that I'm owed it, but like I was always getting ALCs and I haven't lately. So it's really bummed me out. So I'm kind of behind on her books. So I need to catch up. But anyways, this one is about Nash and Emerson. And Emerson is a young doctor. She's this beautiful young doctor, very ambitious, but she has actually come to Magnolia Falls. She's like kind of on a short-term thing to do for a doctor that is retiring in this small town. And she doesn't plan to stay there, but she's doing this to kind of get away after shit that went down in her past and with her ex and stuff. And so she actually is going to be Beefcake's new doctor. And Nash is not happy about this. His son has really bad asthma, and he's always on top of it. And he really trusts their small town doctor that, you know, Cutler has had his whole life. And so he starts off kind of a dick, but he quickly apologizes, especially when she moves in next door to him. And she becomes like a big feature in him and Cutler's life. They really become friends, kind of help each other out here and there. She helps him out with Cutler, and then she becomes kind of close with him, and they start to pursue things. He does have to there is a little bit of other woman drama, but it's not like with him going with another woman. It's him dealing with his ex, who has never really been a mother. She basically has never been around. She'll just drop by here and there. And so it's really unfair to Cutler, and he's very protective over him, but he never went over, like, tried to fight for custody or do anything because she didn't really try. But now he's starting to kind of question what he's going to need to do, because now she's like randomly trying to show up and stuff. So that does lead to like a third act conflict in here, which, you know, I saw like Jen get annoyed and the annotations, which I do get, but it's a really quick thing, and Emerson really like figures out quickly that she might be overreacting and be in her own head, because her and Nash are so solid together. They're so beautiful. They make such a great little family. Like Cutler like loves her. She really wants to be a part of his life. And so I just love these two. It's a really good single dad, you know, friends to lovers type of situation, neighbors. I love Cutler. He is just so precious. He's one of my favorite kids that I've ever read, and so I just have a special place in my heart for this. So this one remained a 5-star for me. I still really love it. I think it might be the best in the series. And it was, did I write this down? Oh, I didn't give a rating, but I think like 2.5 chilies. It's not super spicy. It's just perfect. So adore this. Okay. So then I had another ALC. I listened to Dark and Darker Still by Nikki St. Crowe. If you are familiar with her, like Peter Pan retelling novellas, I think it's The Vicious Boys. Is that what it is? I keep forgetting. And then she also had it's basically the Rock, which is Croc, and Hook love story type of thing happen. And then in this is kind of like a prequel to Vane, who is one of the heroes from that first Peter Pan one. And then his brother is Rock. And they are, I can't remember. I think they are called Mad, like they're the Mad brothers. And then their uncle is actually the Mad Hatter. So in this one, it's kind of like their origin story. So, but I felt like it was more story about Alice. So in this, we are going back to their beginning days. They were kind of lost their titles and all of that because of stuff that their father did, and they're kind of working their way up in I think it's Darkland, yeah, and they have their sister, so they're trying to work their way up and have power and to protect their sister. And they are actually have Alice living with them, and she left I think it was Wonderland or whatever, yeah, because it's Alice in Wonderland, duh. She left Wonderland because of stuff. You don't really get the full thing of her history, but I'm sure that's what's coming, because you could tell this is mostly a setup for her next series, which is going to be about Alice. And then I think maybe the sister. I don't know. But basically, she is kind of with both Vane and Rock, more kind of obsessed with Vane. She also has some kind of past with their uncle, the Mad Hatter, but he's not really in the picture here. He kind of makes an appearance near the end, but they're kind of in this kind of interesting relationship. But she gets really upset because Vane is actually going to marry somebody to help like protect his sister and to help with political alliances and stuff like that. And she is livid. She ends up kind of doing something stupidly, making a big mistake that leads to a big betrayal where they are going to hate her. And it leads to like Rock going, because Rock turns into like the croc, like this beast, and he has that clock to kind of make sure to keep time. So they have interesting powers and stuff. I don't think there was enough setup in this, say if somebody hadn't read the other books, to know anything about them. I think it needed a little bit more world building. It is a novella. It is super quick. A lot of spice in it that I didn't really fully invest in, because Alice was kind of crazy. She was hooking up with him, hooking up with Rock, then she hooked up with some other guy because she was mad, and so she just kind of was a hard character to get behind, but I still was intrigued by her, and I think it was a good setup for her new series. So I gave it 4 stars. You know, it was an ALC, so I want to give it a higher rating, a little bit better rating. And it was quick, fast, and good. The audiobook was really good. It had duet narration by Isabel Turner, Robert Hatchett, Corvin King, and Shane East. So it had a full cast, duet narration, really well done. So 4 stars, and I think I gave it 2.5 chilies. Even though I had quite a bit of spice, I just wasn't as into it, so I gave it kind of a lower spice rating. Okay, so then I read Thief of Shadows by Elizabeth Hoyt. I am finally reading the Maiden Lane series, and I am vlogging all of them. I have done the first 2, right? Which one is this? Oh yeah, so I have the first vlog up for the first 2, and then I just finished the vlog obviously for this after I finished this one, so hopefully that will be coming. I'm thinking I'm gonna try and put that up either like maybe later this week. I just need to edit that and get that all together, but I am loving this series. And this one is one that I was really excited for, because this is about, it kind of gives away certain things, but I think a lot of people know, but maybe I won't say the hero's name in case you haven't read the other ones, because basically this is about the ghost of St. Giles, and we finally know who it is. Now, I kind of guessed from book 1 who it was, but I was excited that I was right. But in this, we have our hero, and he is the ghost of St. Giles. And the ghost of St. Giles, God, it's like I can't really fully give the review if I give without giving you the name, because I want to give more information. I'm probably gonna have to give it away. So if you don't want to know who the ghost of St. Giles was, then maybe skip this, but I'll give you a heads up that this was a 6-star read for me. So this was my second 6-star of the month. I couldn't believe I had 2 6 stars this month, but there was just something about this one that just made me giddy. I loved it. I love this couple. I got emotional multiple times. It was just really beautiful. And so it's a new favorite for me. Okay, so I'm going to go into who he is. So if you don't want to know, just skip ahead. But basically, it's Winter Makepeace. He is the head of the Home for Foundling Children. He has dedicated his life to helping the children and less fortunate in St. Giles. So he's very dedicated. He's basically kind of had a vow of celibacy also, because he feels like if he's going to have sex with somebody, it's to be a wife, have a wife, to be in love. He's very serious. He's a very serious guy. And so he didn't have room for that in his life with how much he needed to dedicate to the children. And then also he is the ghost of St. Giles. So he spends his nights kind of going out there and going after the dregs of society that are, hurting the innocents and all of that. So he's kind of like a Batman type of figure, but he's not a playboy type of Batman. But in this, we have Isabel Beckinghall, and she is one of the women that is actually become like, they're helping like build a new school. They're like the patronesses of this school, and so she is one of the women helping out with that. And she is a widow, and she actually gets kind of tasked with helping Winter become more sociable. He's very serious, like I said, very strict and somber, and just doesn't have time to like chit chat and do the BS that, normal, like the high society do. But now that they're trying to bring up this school and give it more funding, he really needs to be able to do those things. And one of the patronesses is like trying to kick him out and hire a new director of the school. And so she's kind of tasked with that. And in the beginning of this, actually, she saved the ghost of St. Giles, because in the previous book, he was kind of like helped save somebody and was on the run, and he was bleeding pretty badly, wounded. And so he was collapsed in the street, and like this mob is after him. So she actually rescues him and takes him back to her place and helps him. He does wear like this mask thing, so she doesn't know it's Winter, because she does know Winter. And so after that, she is also working with him and also kind of putting the pieces together. She's not stupid. She knows there's something going on here, and she's intrigued by the ghost of St. Giles, and they start to spend a lot of time together, and they just form this beautiful relationship. The thing that made me really emotional about this was, and this kind of might spoil things, but I do want to mention it, is she did have fertility issues. She is barren, and so she thinks that she couldn't be with him because she can't provide children. And Winter just is so gone for her, and once he's all in, once he has sex with her, he's all in. Like, he wants her, and he is devoted to her. And the way he like tells her, like, I can't live my life without you. Yes, I would love to have us have children. He's like, but all these kids of St. Giles that I protect, these are my children. These can be our children. And that's what I need. Like, I need you. And it's just really beautiful. I got teary-eyed multiple times with these amazing conversations, and just how devoted Winter is to her. And it's just really beautiful. They're one of my favorite couples. This is a new favorite historical romance for me. It's a new favorite series. I am kicking myself that I have not read this series yet. It's fantastic. So anyways, I gave this 6 stars and a 3 chilies. Honestly, this is such a good spicy series. Like, Elizabeth Hoyt builds such great tension and angst and sexual like tension, where you're just like, when it gets to the sex, it is hot. It is amazing. Her women take charge. She is a widow. She's not. There was great moments because he is a virgin hero, and she is teaching him things, and he's very up to learning, and I love those scenes. So anyways, love this. Highly recommend this. Vlog coming soon, and you'll see me gush about it there too. Oops, I just realized I skipped 2 of the ones on my list. So I read these previously, but I'm actually going to bring these up together. And I'm not going to go into my full tirade and give things away here, but I did vlog this. So, and it was a journey. It was a disturbing journey that I went on with the Torment Do It. So this has been on my TBR for years. I saw so many people bawling, going hysterical, like so invested in like this book, this duet broke them and all these things. So I was like, okay, sign me up. I got to read this. But I had a different experience and I had some issues with these books. So, yeah. So this is the Torment. I read Torment Part 1 and Torment Part 2. So I'm just going to kind of bring these up together and I'm not going to spoil anything. I did vlog it and it will be full of spoilers and probably a lot of rants. So that'll be coming soon if you are interested. So in this, we have Shay and Mina, and this is honestly, it's promoted and marketed as a dark romance. I don't call this a romance. I'm just going to be straight up with you right out of the bat. This is disturbing. It'll mess with your mind. It is a mind fuck. But the reason I gave the first book 4 stars, even though it disturbed me and it really like made me upset to my stomach, and I was like, this guy is not a hero. He is not even a dark romance hero. He is pretty irredeemable. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like wanted to talk to somebody about it. I ranted to my mom about it. Like, did she even care? Probably not. Helen, from what Helen reads, was actually reading Part 1 and I was like dying to talk to her. So I'm waiting for her to finish Part 2 because I need to talk to somebody about my feelings. But I did all that in my vlog. I actually still have to film my last clip because I just couldn't talk about it after this last book. So I had to like sit with my feelings for a little bit. But anyways, a lot of people really like this. So I'm just going to tell you what it's about and you can decide if it's something you want to look into. If you are scared to jump into this and you want to wait for my vlog where I give some spoilers, do that. Just be aware it's very dark. And there is a lot of trigger warnings. Okay. So in this, it's an MC. I think it's a full series. The first 2 books is a duet on Mina and Shay. So I don't know if I'm going to continue the series. If the other books are like this, I don't think I can continue. But they might be totally different. So anyways, this is about an MC, and Mina, it starts out with her being a very young girl, 7 years old, and her mother actually is going to marry a man that's part of an MC. Now, her mother was pretty clueless about his MC lifestyle until she takes her daughter to go introduce her to him and like his son. And then she kind of sees the reality and is kind of wanting out, but they're not going to let her out. Let's just say that. And so she's 7 and she meets Shay. And I believe Shay was maybe around like 13, maybe when they first met. So there's that age difference there. But he basically kind of becomes her very protective, obsessed stepbrother. And he's very close to her. And he starts to like sneak in her room every night and they sleep together until like the parents catch that and they kind of nip that in the bud. But basically Shay becomes obsessed and possessive and controlling of Mina. And I'm just going to say it right out. This has big time grooming in it, okay? Because he is grooming her from that age, from a young age, for years. And he wants her for himself. And it's very disturbing. So the grooming in this, I've read a lot of dark romance. I've read a lot of crazy age gaps. But the grooming aspect of this is fucking disturbing. This guy is psychotic. And there's not a lot good about him because we're basically going from the age 7 to her age 16. She does get attacked at the beginning of this. And so we're seeing flashbacks and like current timeline type of situation. And basically we're at 16 years old. Shay's in his maybe 23, early 20s. And he's kind of done waiting. And he wants Mina to be his. And his father has actually used Mina as a crutch, a band-aid on his psychotic behaviors. Like she's very like there to keep him in control, which is very disturbing. And this guy is toxic. He's obsessive. He won't let her be friends with anybody. He controls every aspect of her life, and he's grooming her. So that's what this book is, okay? She does have a side friendship, which might be a romance with another rival MC guy, but he was in his late teens, like 19 when she was like 9 or something. Like, so there's that same age gap, and he's befriending a child, so that was kind of creepy to me. So, yeah. So the first book, you know, is that, and then we're continuing the story, and it gets kind of worse. And so that's what this duet is, okay? I don't want to give other things away, but it was very disturbing. So I ended up giving the first book 4 stars because I couldn't stop thinking about it. It messed with my mind. I think the author did really great writing, doing things from like all the heroine's POV. So you see it from like an innocent, childlike type of way of how she's groomed and manipulated and mind controlled and all that kind of stuff. So I found that very fascinating, but it was disturbing. And the second book, I think I settled on a 3 or 3.5 star. I'm sorry, I forgot to write it down here. But I was pissed off at the ending, and not for reasons other people were. And so, yeah, and it was more disturbing. So, and I just want to say, this ain't a romance. Sorry, if you love this duet and you think it's great, okay, I just can't get behind Shay. I cannot. I read dark romance heroes of like Carter Mahoney, all these kind of dark, fucked up shit. It's not like this. Like this, the grooming of a child from like 7 to 16 is just a little too disturbing for me. So I found something that I can't hack as a dark romance reader. I found it. I found my disturbing level that I don't want. So that's what this is. So I'm going to leave it at that. Sorry guys. I don't know if I gave it a chili rating. I might have, but it's just disturbing chilies. Is that a chili? I don't know. Anyways, let's move on. Okay. So then I read Lovely Bad Things by Trisha Wolfe. This one is the first book in the Hollows Rose series. I read the Madly Darkly whatever series where it was her like a therapist and a psychopath type of thing. And it was also really fascinating, good suspense, really interesting. I read that long time ago. So I wanted to give this one a try. This one is between Callum and Halen, and this is about a serial killer that she actually is like a criminologist, psychological profiler type of chick, and she ends up testifying against him and getting him put away, but he only gets put away to like a mental institution type of thing. And now there's a new killer out, and it is like has a lot of ties to philosophers and all this stuff. And he was actually this sexy, tattooed, like badass, like teacher. He was a professor of philosophy and all that kind of stuff. And so she needs his help. So it's very like Silence of the Lambs type of vibes, giving you Criminal Minds kind of feeling. And so she actually goes to get his help, and they let him out to help her on this case, which I feel like is so unrealistic. You know, like they're going to let him out and have an ankle monitor when he was like a supposed serial killer. But anyways, and so now they're working on this case together, and it's creepy. There's a really weird, gory, like occult type of like sacrifice, weird stuff going on. So that was interesting. But I was confused for like 90% of this book. I don't even know what was really happening. That end twist was like made it more confusing, and they didn't even really explain it good enough to me. It leaves off on a cliffhanger, so obviously this continues. So I'm thinking about continuing with it. It was heavily like highbrow like philosophy shit, and when I had a humanities class in college, we had to do this Nietzsche like book, and it just went way above my head. That is not my type of thing. Nietzsche like bores the shit out of me, and I'm just not that into philosophy type of stuff. So a lot of the stuff was like, I'm just like, okay, it was like heavily focused on that. So it was intriguing, confusing. I don't know what the fuck is happening with this, but there was a crazy sex scene between them, like almost at a sacrifice type of thing to lure the killer out, and it was pretty crazy. I don't know. I don't know what this book was. So I settled on a 3.5 star because I was confused. Like, I don't even know what I read. And that could just be me. Maybe I'm not smart enough for this book. But it was interesting. And then I gave it 2.5 chilies. Okay. Oh, you know what? I forgot to grab my book, but whatever. I finally read The Bride by Hazelwood. I've had this on my TBR, I feel like, since it came out, and I still haven't gotten to it. I was nervous to read this for a bit because I think I've only read one Hazelwood, which was Love and Hypothesis, and I just thought it was okay. I didn't think it was really worth the hype. And so I was nervous to see her try to do paranormal. I'm a huge fan of paranormal romance, and she's kind of a more of a contemporary, cute, like, author doing paranormal. So I went in with pretty low expectations. So I wasn't like let down, but I think this was pretty boring and like an obvious introduction to like paranormal for people that have never read paranormal. So I think this has so many ratings on Goodreads and a lot of 5-star ratings. And I will say that I think most of those 5-star ratings are from people that don't really read paranormal romance, because the world building in this wasn't that great. A lot of it was like telling me, info dumping. And then a lot of it's stuff that we already know is like paranormal readers. You don't need to spell it out to us about vampires and werewolves. Like, we know. You don't need to spend that much time with it. And it just kind of dragged in a lot of places. It was really long and slow going. I did end up listening to the audiobook on this, so I think that helped it move a little quicker for me. I think if I was reading it physically, I probably would have had a tougher time with it. But this is between Low and Misery, and then also Misery, that's the name we're going with. Okay. And Misery is actually our heroine. She is a vampire, and Low is the werewolf. He is the alpha of his pack, and this is going to be an arranged marriage between them to kind of help with political alliances and, like, you know, all of that kind of stuff. She was actually sent to live with the humans, and like, so she's kind of been away, banished from her family. She was living with humans, and then like they do all this stuff where one's living with them, and then, you know, to kind of keep peace among the people. And so, yeah, so the beginning of this, she's set with an arranged marriage with him, and then we barely spend any time with them together, and it's more of like her getting to know their people and befriending like a little girl, and it was just pretty boring, and then a bunch of info dumping on us. And they didn't have enough interaction. I wanted more time with them building a relationship. It's obvious from the get-go he scented her, she's his mate, and she's totally clueless and doesn't think like, oh, do I stink? Oh, he doesn't like the way I smell. And I was like, okay. And then I didn't like how he basically kind of white-fanged her a little bit, like pushed her away and wouldn't let her know that she was really his mate because he didn't think she should feel like she owes it to him. And I was just like, seriously? I wanted more of an alpha hero too for this. So it had a lot of potential. It just kind of fell for me because the heroine was also the overly quirky. Her inner monologues is the quirky heroine, like, kind of chick. And it just kind of was whatever. The sex scenes got really good. I did like a couple of them. We got some nodding in here because we have a werewolf, so they knot. So I love nodding. Love it. I just kind of expect more when I read a paranormal romance. So I don't know if I'll continue with this. I mean, I don't know. I think this is really good for people that just generally read contemporary and then now they're giving paranormal a try. I think it'll be good for them. But for us readers that have read better, it's kind of okay. It's meh, you know? So I ended up giving it 3.5 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay. So then I wanted a novella. I just needed something quick at the end of the month to kind of like make me feel good. So I ended up picking up Secrets at Sunset by Juliette Cross. This is the other one I was talking about that I was going to bring up. I actually haven't read this series. This is one of her contemporary series, but I was looking for a novella, and I remember Jen bringing this up in one of her videos. And this is actually the second book in the Beauville, I think that's how you say it, series. And so I think the other books are like full novels, but this one is a novella. But honestly, this told a full story. It was perfect for like a novella. Like, it's, I think, 113 pages, and it actually had really good character growth and like angst, and like kind of you could feel like their connection. This is between Reed Robichaud and Anna, and Reed has been her brother's best friend forever. She's been crushing on him for a long time, and he actually started crushing on her later, but it's kind of like this mutual pining situation, and where they both think they can't really go there. Anna is actually graduated from college now, and she wants to open up her own like dancing studio, but her parents are not behind her. They want her to like be more safe and, you know, work at a business first and all this stuff. And Reed kind of tells her, do what you're going to do. Like, you can do this. You've excelled at everything you've ever done in your life. Like, and so his belief in her really inspires her to go for it. So she had a lot of savings to be able to buy the place, but it needs a lot of renovation. And he actually is a construction worker, and so she offers him, hey, can you do the renovation for me? I'll like clean your house, cook your meals every night, like kind of be there for you. And then you can work on my renovation. And of course he agrees. He is so in love with her and smitten. And so he agrees to help her out. And so they start spending more time together. She's cooking him these amazing meals, and they'll like eat dinner together. And there's just this connection between them, and they can't deny it. And so they're finally ready to kind of go for it with each other. And I just loved it because seriously, when the truth is revealed about them being together, it's not a big deal. The whole family knew they were in love with each other and still not going for it. So it's just very cute and made me want to read the other books. It's like the perfect, like quick little novella if you want like something, a palate cleanser, something sweet and easy and swoony. I had a great time with it. So I gave this one 5 stars and 2.5 chilies. I will say, like, it's tough for me to give a novella 5 stars. So that should tell you that I really think it's a quality novella. I usually would settle with a 4-star, but if it's a 5-star, it was fantastic. I loved it. It was great. Then I had my DNF, which was Kian by Tijan. Is it Tijan? I think it is. I tried listening to the audiobook. I think I got like 17% through, and the hero and heroine had not even engaged with each other yet. And it was like very immature college student, like over the top angsty, like just telling me about their history, but we haven't even had them interact. And I just was bored out of my freaking mind. And it just read a little too young for me. So I just decided not going to read it. And I saw a lot of bad reviews on Goodreads, so that kind of helped me just say, you know what, don't waste my time on it, DNF. I'm not even going to go into what it's about because this video is already super long. All right, last book that I read was Half-Light Harbor. I'm so behind on getting to this. I totally thought the audiobook came out on November 3rd, but it's already been out like for I think a week, and I didn't get to it yet. So I'm behind, so sorry. But this is the newest book by Samantha Young. This is a romantic suspense. This is the first book in the Scottish Isles series, and this was super cute. I loved the audiobook. Oh, you know what? I forgot to put the narrators on here real quick. All right, so I'll get to that in a second. But basically, Half-Light Harbor is about Tierney, and she actually was living in New York. She came from a rich, affluent family, but her parents had died a year ago, and she was really grieving and in a bad place. And she ends up catching her, I think it was her fiance or her boyfriend, cheating on her, and he's kind of like, oh, well, you've been grieving, and like, I gotta get my, and he was a total douche. And so she leaves him, and she ends up deciding to use part of her inheritance, like her money. I think she might have sold part of, like, because I think they owned hotels. I can't remember, sorry. But she's going to open up kind of like a hotel bed and breakfast type of situation in Scotland. So she ends up going out there and she's starting fresh. And she ends up having runs-ins with an older man, Ramsay McCrae. He is her contractor. He's a sexy, kind of grumpy older man with this cute dog. And he's very secluded, and she ends up kind of getting stuck on like the island with him because of like the low and high tides or whatever. And so they kind of spend some time together, and then they are working together on this project, and they have a lot of chemistry together, but he doesn't do relationships. So they eventually decide to kind of have a fling and hook up, but they are really into each other. And this is a romantic suspense, so we have a suspense element keyed into the death of her parents, and somebody is after her to shut her up and not have her and this reporter investigate it. So there's also a danger element. So once they're kind of both having secrets from each other about who they, like, their past and like what's going on. And so as those are revealed, you get to learn more about Ramsay and who he really is. And that was really great. So this was cute. It was a good introduction to the series. I loved her close friendship. There is a trigger warning also for domestic abuse because her friend is, involved in that. And so she's trying to help her friend. So I really loved that. I thought it was cute. It was a good introduction. So I ended up giving that one 4 stars and 3 chilies. And let me see, did I write down? Sorry, let me see where the narrators are at here. Okay, so that one had dual narration by Shane East, who is a fave, and Stella Hunter. Shane East is so amazing. Like, he is one of my favorite narrators. He does such a good job with this. He's so sexy doing the Scottish accent. He's just amazing. So it was a fantastic audiobook. All right, guys, we're almost at an hour here. So those are all the books that I read this last week. Thank you so much for watching this. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment down below, and I will see you guys on the next one.